Picture this. An alarm goes off. There's been an incident on your vessel, and it happened on your watch. You know, in those first critical minutes and hours, the choices you make are going to set the stage for everything that follows. So, let's break down a professional framework for turning any incident, big or small, into a real opportunity to learn and make things safer.
So, okay, you've handled the immediate emergency. Everyone's safe, the situation is stable. That's a good response. But a great response? Well, that's what happens next. It's the difference between just getting things back to normal and making sure this never, ever happens again. Not on your ship, not on any ship in the fleet.
And really, it all comes down to two completely different mindsets. You've got the traditional approach, which is all about reacting. It finds the nearest person, assigns some blame, slaps on a quick fix, and just moves on. But the structured approach, that's about digging deep. It resists the easy answers to find the systemic weaknesses that allow the incident to happen in the first place. And it builds real, long-term solutions. And here's your roadmap for that structured approach. It's the ABS Marine Root Cause Analysis Technique, or MaRCAT for short. It's a proven, step-by-step process designed specifically for us in the maritime industry. Seriously, think of it as your professional toolkit to get you from the chaos of an incident to the clarity of real insight.
All right, so let's get into it. The emergency is over. Now, your first critical job as an investigator is to secure the scene. This means you control who comes and goes, and you treat that entire area like it's a goldmine of valuable data. You have to consciously switch gears out of emergency response mode and into a controlled, methodical investigation. Nothing gets touched, nothing gets moved, everything is preserved.
The next phase is all about data. And here's the most important rule. We are gathering facts, not looking for fault. An investigation that starts with blame is doomed to fail, period. People will shut down, they'll get defensive, and you will never find out what really happened. The only goal here is to understand. So to get that understanding, you're going to collect data from 5 key sources. You've got people data, which comes from interviews. Physical data, broken parts, samples, things like that. Paper data, which means logs, charts, and procedures. Electronic data from your systems, like the VDR. And finally, position data, literally where everything and everyone was at the time of the incident.
Now, of all those types of data, the information you get from people is by far the most fragile. Human memory fades, details get fuzzy, stories change, especially under pressure. And that's exactly why getting statements and conducting interviews has to be your #1 priority. You have to capture what people saw, heard, and felt while it's still fresh in their minds.
And look, a professional interview is not just some casual chat. It needs a clear structure. You have to plan who you're going to talk to and where. It is absolutely vital to build some rapport, making it clear that this is about preventing future incidents, not about punishment. You always start with big, open-ended questions like, hey, just tell me what you saw, and only then, later on, do you drill down with specific, closed-ended questions. This process is key to getting accurate, unfiltered information.
So once you've gathered all your data, the investigation shifts into the analysis phase. This is where you take all those different pieces, the interviews, the physical evidence, the logbooks, and you start to assemble the puzzle. The goal is to build a clear timeline of events and pinpoint the direct causes, or what we call causal factors.
Now, MaRCAT gives us 2 really powerful tools for this part. For simpler incidents, the 5 whys technique can be super effective. You just keep asking why something happened, peeling back the layers. But for more complex events, a fault tree analysis is the way to go. It's a much more rigorous, top-down method for mapping out exactly how multiple failures all came together to cause the final event.
And here's a simple way to see it. For this hand injury to happen, 2 things had to go wrong, right? The system had to be pressurized, and the operator had to try and disconnect the hose. See? The fault tree forces you to logically connect every single event and condition. It shows you exactly how the safeguards failed and makes that whole chain of events perfectly clear. Okay, identifying these causal factors is a huge step forward. But, and this is important, we can't stop there. Causal factors are still just the symptoms. A great investigation has to dig past the symptoms to find the true, fundamental root cause, the reason those causal factors even existed to begin with.
And this right here is where so many investigations fall apart. They hit a human error and they just stop. But human error is never, ever a root cause. It's a symptom. If you stop there, you've failed the investigation. You have to ask the next question. Why did that person make that error? What system was in place that allowed it to happen?
So here's the official definition, and it's absolutely critical. A root cause is a deficiency in a management system, We're talking about things like a bad training program, poorly written procedures, a flawed maintenance schedule, or weak communication protocols. It's a problem with the system. And when you fix that, you don't just prevent this one incident, you prevent a whole class of future incidents.
This iceberg analogy, this might be the single most important concept in this whole process. The causal factors, the broken part, the wrong valve being turned, that's the little tip of the iceberg you see above the water. The root cause is that massive, hidden foundation below the surface. It's the weakness in the management system that set the stage for the failure. A great investigation always focuses on what's below the waterline. Which brings us to the final and, frankly, the most valuable stage of this whole process: developing effective recommendations. This is where all that hard work of gathering data and analyzing it actually pays off. This is where you create real, lasting change.
Your recommendations should really operate on 4 different levels. Level 1 is the quick fix, repairing the broken part. You have to do it, but it's not enough. You also have to address the intermediate causes, and then you should expand that fix to similar problems across the entire fleet. But the most powerful recommendations, the ones that really matter, are at level 4. That's where you correct the underlying management system, the root cause.
Let's be crystal clear about this. This is the entire point. The whole reason for using a structured method like MaRCAT is to generate these high-impact Level 4 recommendations. It's about rewriting the procedure, improving the training program, or changing the communication protocol. It's all about systemic prevention.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Take a hard look at your own vessel, your own company. Is your safety culture built around reacting to things and fixing them after they break? Or is it built on the deep, methodical work of finding and fixing root causes to prevent problems from ever happening in the first place? The answer to that question makes all the difference.